Hello and welcome. My name is Stephen Law, and I am the director of the Certificate of Higher Education program here at Oxford University. And this session is being put on to give you some information about the Certificate of Higher Education and to give you an opportunity to ask us any questions that you may have about the program. You can ask questions using the question and answer button at the bottom of the PowerPoint screen. You can type in your questions and we will address those questions either as we go along or at the end. We may provide a verbal answer or we may type answers in. So let's get started. This session will last between 45 and 60 minutes, probably 60 minutes. And the aim is to guide you through the program, the certificate, what it involves. As I say, ask your questions via the Q&A function. We have subject area specialists with us, the assessors. So if you have a question for those people, your particular topic, history or philosophy or whatever it might happen to be, you can mention that too. So this is the team. We have myself as course director. We've got Jeremy Hughes, he's here. He's in charge of creative writing. We have Rosemary Cresswell, she's in charge of history. Peter Wiss is the subject area assessor in philosophy, which also happens to be my subject area. And then Martin Michette is here also. He's the subject area assessor in architectural history. So they will be able to answer your questions on those specific areas. We also have Christina Allen, who's the course administrator, and Maria Marinova, who's a course administrator. So they can help us with answers to questions as well as we go. Right. So here's a course overview. If you're doing the Cert HE, you will take 2 to 4 years. You can't do it more quickly than that. You can't do it more slowly. Sometimes people take a bit longer than 4 years because they've been suspended for a certain period of time because there's been some difficulty or problem perhaps that they've run into. But typically you need to finish within 4 years and you can't do it more quickly than 2 years. You study primarily through taking short courses, and those can be in person in Oxford if you are located reasonably close to Oxford, or the vast majority of students are taking courses mostly online. This is what's known as a level 4 course, FHEQ level 4. That's equivalent to first year undergraduate. And in fact, the entire program, in effect, is the equivalent of taking the first year of an undergraduate program. The intake that we're now looking at is for September of 2026. That's when you would start if you were to apply now and be successful. This course is for pretty much anyone, any adult, any age, anywhere in the world. You do not require any prior academic qualifications at all. We have people who come to us with no qualifications. We also have people who come to us who already have PhDs. So we cater to everyone. What you do need is a genuine passion for the subject area that is going to be your main subject area for studying. And you also need the spare time, of course, to engage in the program, to take the courses, produce the coursework, and so on. So those are the two key requirements: genuine passion for the subject and the time that you're going to need to successfully complete. You can create really your own course within certain limits. You're going to be combining courses Some will be online, no doubt, and at least one will need to be in person. We'll discuss that in a bit more detail shortly. So online, you have flexible courses where there's no particular time at which you need to kind of log on. We have live online courses where there is a scheduled slot per week where you do need to attend. We then have in-person weekly classes, so you might attend a 10-week course at Oxford. I'm running a couple of those next term in philosophy. And then we also have the Oxford University Summer School for Adults. So for 5 weeks over the summer, you can take a 1 week course over over 1 week. You can complete one course and achieve your 10 CATS points by doing that. You need to accumulate 120 CATS points in total, 10 CATS points per course, and at least 10 CATS points need to be gained by taking an in-person course. So that means you need to be physically present in Oxford for one course. Now, if you're outside of the UK, the most the most obvious way of meeting that requirement is to attend a 1 week summer school. So you can do that. And you can do that at any point while you are registered on the Cert HE. It could be in your first year, it could be in your last year, it doesn't matter. And you can take a course in any subject. It doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be in your main subject area. But you do need to take one course in person. And for many people who are based outside of the UK, taking a summer school is the most obvious way of doing that. It needs to be one of our accredited summer schools. So make sure you're taking an OUSA, OUSSA course. Only those count towards the Cert HE. Most students take one or two courses at a time. Some will just take one course per term, and then it's going to take you 4 years to complete. Or you could take two courses per term. It's going to take you 2 years to complete. I would say the majority of our students are taking 3 to 4 years, but it is possible to do it in two. There are now 9 main subject areas from which you can select courses. You are required to take at least one other subject area, explore at least one other subject area. In your first year, you will take an introductory course, a kind of core course in your chosen subject area. So, for example, if it's philosophy, you'll take the Introduction to Philosophy course in your first year. And you must also complete the academic literacy course, which is a particularly useful course, which is compulsory and which you need to successfully complete in your first year. So in your first year, you need to successfully complete, in order to progress, you need successfully to complete the academic literacy course, the core course, and achieve a minimum of 30 CATS points. Here are the subjects you can explore: archaeology, architectural history, art history, creative writing, data science, we've just added, English literature, history, philosophy, political economy. You need to take 60 to 80 of the 120 CATS points in your preferred chosen subject area. And then you need to take 30 to 50 CATS points outside of that area. And you can choose whatever you like. There's no particular alternative that you're required to pursue. So if you're doing philosophy, for example, you could take a course in archaeology and a course in data science and a course in art history, whatever you like. You can mix things up in any way you choose. This is a kind of a bespoke course overall that you can put together to reflect your own particular passions and interests. So now we can have a look at the subject areas in a bit more depth. And this is where I'm going to hand over to our subject area specialists to talk about their particular areas. So architectural history. Martin Michette is here. So, Martin, would you like to tell us a little bit about architectural history?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Stephen. Hello, everyone. Hope you can hear me. So, yes, I'm a departmental lecturer at Oxford Lifelong Learning in architectural history and cultural heritage. So, I'm also the assessor for the Cert HE in architectural history, as Stephen's already explained. And I'm just going to spend a few minutes talking about some of the courses that are available to students on the architectural history pathway. Um, some of the topics that students write their additional assignments on, and a brief look at some of the kind of adjacent subject areas so you can get an idea of what else you can do to kind of um, augment your study of architectural history. So Stephen mentioned the different formats we have there of short courses, and we usually have about 4 or 5 architectural history courses in each of those formats. So in the live weekly, which might be less relevant to many of you, but also 4 or 5 each in each of the SOC Live and SOC Flex formats. And they cover a fairly wide range of different topics and themes. So maybe to begin with the introductory course, which is called Learning to Look at Western Architecture. Uh, so that's delivered by one of our longest standing tutors, actually, Dr. David Morgan, who is not only very knowledgeable in the subject, in the entire field, but also very good at managing this particular online format. So he's very engaged, very articulate, very um, uh, kind of good at dealing with that online format. So it's an excellent introductory course, not only because of the subject area, but also because it's a really good introduction into the way the learning can work on this course. Um, and that really, as the name suggests, kind of goes through the long history of Western architecture, beginning with the classical period, covering Gothic and Renaissance architecture, and ending with a look at the contemporary built environment as well. And several of our other courses kind of fit into that mold, that they're looking at specific periods or styles of architectural history. But we also have some that are perhaps a little bit more focused at kind of people who might have a professional background and who are looking to kind of additionally to the kind of the academic grounding that the course offers, looking to build some skills in that. So recently we've started some SOC Live courses. So that's the other format, the format which has a weekly seminar, which are looking at things like the history of architectural conservation and traditional building materials. So that maybe gives you a bit of an idea of what kind of different pathways you can take as well, and what your assignments might look like when you're doing this subject area. But to give you a bit more of an idea, I could quickly mention some recent assignments that students have done. So quite often students like to look at a comparison of different styles or different periods. So we've had recent essays on the influence of patrons on the stylistic development of Renaissance architecture in Italy and England, the comparison of spatial organization of palaces in Islamic and Western European architecture. Um, but we also have biographies of important figures throughout architectural history. So we had recently a really nice biography of Charles Robert Ashby, who was an influential arts and crafts architect. And then, as I suggested, some people are coming at this with more of a professional interest. So we had a couple of essays recently looking at energy transitions throughout architectural history, and then building on that, there was an essay on the impact of current policy on managing heritage assets. So really quite a broad range of different ways in which you could take the course. And as a final thought on adjacent subject areas that might be relevant, so a couple are mentioned here, but really I think everything can be relevant. And I think there's a whole range of different courses which can really enrich and study in this subject area. So beyond those subject areas which are mentioned here, I'd just quickly like to mention there's some interesting courses in the environment and sustainability subject area as well. For example, we've had one recently added which looks at place and community and urban design. So going a little bit more in the kind of the urban studies direction. So my 5 minutes are up, so I'll end it there, but please do post any questions you might have in the Q&A box. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks, Martin. So, next up we have creative writing, and so we have Jeremy Hughes on hand, I hope, to talk a little bit about that. Are you there, Jeremy?
Yes, I'm here. Hi, everybody. Good to meet you all. I'm a departmental tutor in creative writing, teaching a variety of courses right across the uh, provision that is online and face-to-face. And I'm delighted to be the assessor for creative writing since it's something of a journey for me from having no provision in the UK for creative writing at all when I was an undergraduate. There were only two courses in the country, and they were both master's courses. And now I find myself delivering a fantastic suite of courses here at Oxford. Now, we offer all the genres of creative writing with specialist tutors. Most people who take the course are fiction writers. They tend to think of themselves as wanting to be novelists mostly, but also short story writers. But we offer poetry courses, drama courses, and with the drama courses, that can be writing for the stage, writing for the screen, and writing for radio. And we also offer a variety of courses in creative non-fiction. So, for example, we offer courses in life writing. Most people think, oh, I'm not quite sure what life writing is. Well, it's an umbrella term for a variety of texts from memoir, travel writing, biography, autobiography, essay, and right up to date, we have developed a course in nature writing, which is tapping into people's interests in the environment and ecology and the natural world. One of the most exciting aspects of taking the creative writing route is that when it comes to the three additional assignments, you have the opportunity to discuss with me what it is you want to do. We don't impose on you what you must do. You have to, or perhaps have to is the wrong way of describing it. You are given the opportunity to explore an aspect of creative writing that interests, excites you. So you can, for example, if you, and this does happen quite frequently, when people do uh, poetry courses and they're not used to poetry and they're often scared of it, they discover that actually they're very interested in poetry and would like to take it further. So that is where the additional assignment comes in, and you can explore a particular genre and discuss your ideas with me so that we formulate an overall assignment. Now, we also want you in your additional assignments to present a range of skills based upon what you have encountered in your individual courses. For me, it's exciting, just as exciting for me as it is for you. And also, we have had great successes with our students who have then gone on to publish their work in various outlets, including novels which have sold well. They've won competitions, poetry competitions, flash fiction competitions, short story competitions. You are guaranteed excellent support because each course is delivered by a specialist tutor. So we look forward to receiving your application and to working with you. It is an exciting venture and it's a great community. So I look forward to meeting you. Okay, back to you, Stephen.
Yeah, thanks, Jeremy. So now we're going to look at history, and we have Rosemary Cresswell with us, who can talk to that a little bit. Rosemary.
Hello. So hopefully you might have had a chance to have a look at the kinds of short courses we offer in our catalogue online. There's a really good selection tool if you want to filter them to online, and whether they're flexible or live or face to face, and our summer schools. But just to kind of summarise the kinds of topics that you might be able to choose from, we've currently got a variety in medieval history, women's history, the Tudors, civil wars, the 20th century, and a variety of political and military history options. So do take a look. It gives you a flavour of what we offer, because sometimes we introduce new courses and some we change. So to give you an idea of some of the additional assignments that students have come up with, quite a lot are inspired by the initial course you'll take, The Making of Modern Britain, and the kinds of topics that they might be interested in looking into have included the Industrial Revolution and textiles. And obviously that's something you could combine perhaps with art history. And their interests in topics like the British Empire, and there's also a course currently on the British Empire as well. People are interested in women's history and how that fits in, so perhaps women and work, and then inspired by topics such as courses on the Elizabethans and the Victorian periods, looking at women's lives more broadly, such as their experiences of love or marriage. Some people have been interested in reading, so looking at newspaper history and literacy, and what people understood about political episodes, perhaps through newspapers. And they've looked at topics like succession crises of which monarch will be next, or wars, for example. All sorts of ideas can be combined in the first essay, because you can bring in a subject area outside of history. So some of the topics that people have looked at that have combined other subjects include spying. So, for example, looking at data science and cybersecurity, and then thinking about spying through history and how methods have changed, could be an interesting topic to look at, which I think one person's done so far. And I'm just trying to think of other ones. Oh, so I've had drawing on Martin's subject area. Then I've had a student write on the history of cathedral architecture, for example, and bringing in the historical period and context of the time and how that influenced. So there's all sorts of ideas about how you can bring in the different subject of areas that we offer. And particularly, I think philosophy is quite complementary, which I think the slides have moved on to helpfully as I come to that, because there are ideas such as the Enlightenment or ethics and morals and Marxism that are in this philosophy subject area that have influenced essays too. So I hope that gives you a flavour of some of the kind of topics that you can draw your own interests into. I mean, as one of my colleagues was saying, they can be from work as well, that those interests come. So, for example, if you work for an international organisation or the European Union, which we've had students in those kind of roles, then they might have looked into the history of their own organisation, for example, and fitted that into the time period. So there's that kind of ability to look at the courses that you're doing and adapt it to your own interests or work experience. I hope that's everything covered. Obviously not everything, but do put questions in the Q&A if you've got any others about history.
Yeah, thanks, Rosemary. Good. And yeah, I pressed the wrong button there a bit earlier.
Well,
So,
it was helpful. I was just moving on to philosophy, so very timely.
so yeah, so let's move on then to philosophy. So that's my subject, but we also have Peter Wiss here, who's the subject area specialist. So Peter, tell us a little bit about the philosophy courses.
Okay. Hello, everybody. Um, so here's a head of David. I presume. Yeah, it looks like David, but it's not a philosopher, and it's a flower pot, a decaying flower pot with a brain inverted to or transformed or transmuted into flowers, and a watering can that sort of floats in the air and waters it. And I'm not sure why it's decaying, whether it should be decaying or whether it's decays because of the water or in spite of the water. I don't know. I'm confused here. So who on earth made this picture? I wonder. So, and I've got questions here, and I thought that this might be a good. I'm wondering, and this is the start of philosophy, according to Aristotle and Plato, of course. So, questions are what you do in philosophy, having questions and trying to answer them. You get some answers, fascinating ones, and also surprising ones. Some are preliminary, they're not complete, they're not final anyway. But you get a lot of more problems, more questions, and further questions. Not all of them are solvable. Some of them are debatable, and most of them are controversial. So, what can you learn from these activities? Well, what you learn is critical thinking, reasoned argument concerning topics such as of perennial human concerns. So here's a list. For instance, you could do with free will. That's a perennial problem. Um, Problem of evil is another one. The mind-body problem, posthumous harm, time and change, moral action and happiness, or more specific ones, AI in medicine, or Plato's alleged feminism, or whether democracy can be universal or should be universal, or the genealogy of identity politics. So these are more specific topics which have all been chosen for research projects by my students in the last few years. That's just a small selection, really, of these topics. But that gives you a flavor of what you can do. And as Jeremy mentioned, it is really your projects in these assignments, the three assignments, that's your projects, and it is meant to be something like a mini research project, a project that you want to engage in for a few weeks or a month or two to write up your research. Well, and what do philosophers do? Well, some of them have gone on to do a bachelor degree afterwards. A few have done a master's degrees or they're doing master's degrees. And most of them say that philosophy has opened their eyes. And such is the power of questioning, really. The introduction to philosophy course, which is the compulsory one, that covers some issues that I mentioned. So you read a bit of Descartes, and you do determinism and free will and these things, and also well, other stuff. It's a slow-paced but very interesting course, which is taught by a host of the tutors that are around here. And subject areas that complement philosophy could be anything really. I wouldn't know how to marry philosophy with data science, but anyway, that's your job. You could do that. Okay, so here we go. That was my contribution. Back to Stephen.
Yeah, thanks, Peter. So let's move on to. Actually, I'm just going to say one thing. Actually, just say a little bit more actually about the role of the assessors before I move on to the next slide. So what really makes the Cert AG, our Cert AG, unique is the fact that you do have the opportunity to work one-to-one with a subject area specialist. No other Cert AG program, to my knowledge, anywhere in the world offers that. So you get a kind of Oxbridge style one-to-one experience when you're working on your 3 additional assignments. The assignments, these 3 additional assignments become due as you progress through the program at 70 CATS points. The first one, you start to work on that. 100 CATS points, you work on the second assignment. 120 CATS points, you work on the third assignment. And you will be in touch with your subject area specialist who will provide you with support and guidance and help so that you can in conjunction with the assessor, you work out what it is that you want to work on. It's not that we hand you a task and you have to do it. No, you figure that out for yourself in conversation with the subject area specialist, and then you go and do the research and yourself and produce the work. And you have full access to the University of Oxford Library provision, exactly the same as any of us lecturers and tutors have. That's provided to you. So these 3 assignments receive a numerical grade, and your overall classification is based on an averaging of the mark for those 3 additional assignments. The other courses, the 12 10-point courses that you take, are all pass-fail courses. So I thought I should just add that little bit of extra information. So assessment, as I've just mentioned, 3 additional written assignments, plus the coursework that you do for each course. So each course has its own essay, perhaps, typically, that you would need to complete. That's it. That's the only assignment that takes place. There are no written exams at the end of the course. During the program, tutor contact for each module, there is this one-to-one engagement with the main subject area assessor for each assignment. And that could be 2 30-minute sessions or 1 hour long session per assignment. In addition, there are 2 personal academic development tutorials where you kind of talk about your progress and where you're heading and so on, a bit more generally. Again, with your subject area specialist. You can make the most of the library facilities, which, as I say, you then have access to as a Cert AG student. This is not something that students have generally if they're simply taking a course with us. But as a Cert AG student, you get a card that will give you physical access to the libraries. You can physically go into them, and you can also access them online. When you have successfully completed, there is a award ceremony which takes place in the Sheldonian Theatre, which is the same location that all of our awards, degrees and so on are. The events take place. Very grand. And then there's a reception afterwards at Rewley House, which is the headquarters of lifelong learning. So you would have an invitation to attend in person in Oxford to receive your certificate, if you so choose. For more information about the course, go to the website. It's pretty good. The website has a lot of information on the Cert AG. Many of your questions will be answered just by looking at the website. You can also contact us at certag@conted.ox.ac.uk is an email address you can use. You can also contact us, me personally, the assessors. Our addresses are always the same. It's first name dot last name at conted.ox.ac.uk. So it's easy to locate us. And then you can follow us on those online platforms as well. So I think that's the end of the slides. There we go. And now we have an opportunity for you to ask us any questions if you have them. Holly Williams has asked a question. What is the approximate total cost for the course? I understand there is a fee of 1,820 annually, but are there also costs for the separate courses? And then the second question, how many assignments total are we expected to complete over the course of the entire program? Is it one per short course? Yeah. Okay. Well, the exact cost of the course is going to depend on exactly what courses you take. So some courses are more expensive. If you were to attend a summer school, for example, then that's going to be residential and it's going to be more expensive. You do pay for individual courses. Not every single one, the academic literacy one, is bundled into the cost, the general cost, but there are costs for the additional courses, and the overall cost will then depend upon which additional courses you take. There are 3 additional assignments of 2,500 words, 2,500 words, and then 3,500 words, which you will work on under the supervision with the one-to-one support of your subject area assessor. And those come to you at 70, 100, and 120 CATS points. Those are in addition to the assignments that you do for the individual courses. So there will be an assignment for each individual course, and that's pass-fail. The 3 additional assignments, you will receive a numerical grade, and your overall classification is based on an averaging of the numerical grades for those 3 additional assignments. I hope that's answered your question, Holly. In terms of short course and this certificate, what's the difference on support and learning? Well, when you're taking a course, you have a tutor who will be working with you, and exactly how you work with the tutor depends on the nature of the course. So if it's in person, you'll be physically meeting them. If you are taking one of the short courses where there's a scheduled slot where you get together with other students and the tutor, then you can interact live. If you're doing a course which is one of the flexible courses, then you interact with other students and with your tutor online through typed questions and answers and so on. And then there is, again, depending on the nature of the course, there are either physical lectures which you can attend, or there are online lectures and sessions and so on, which you can attend too. So it depends partly on the nature of the course. Does anyone want to add a little bit more on that? Any of the assessors, or please butt in if my answers seem a bit thin. Okay. Next question. Is the only opportunity to meet one-to-one with the assessor at the time when you are, it's moved, when you're working on the additional assignment? No, you can, in fact, we encourage you to sort of make contact with your assessor early, in plenty of time. And, if you're struggling a little bit, get in touch with the assessor and they may be able to give you some guidance and help. They are there not just for that very limited window, but more generally to provide you with support and guidance. So you don't need to be shy about getting in contact with your assessor. We very much encourage you to touch base with your assessor. As a Canadian from Quebec, am I expected to take an English proficiency exam? I have no idea what the answer to that question is. Christina, do you know the answer to that question? I wouldn't have thought so, but...
I will answer this question. So it depends if it's considered an English-speaking country, which Canada is, unless your first language is French, and English is not your first language. So it depends. If you are a native English speaker, then you don't need to provide the English test. But if you're not, then you do. You can check our webpage. So I've replied to a few people. I can send a link here as well to our specific language requirements. So if you pass IELTS, overall it should be over 7.5 points. Or if you do a Cambridge test, it's C1 level. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Maria. If I understand you correctly, asks Birgit Kai, if I'm pronouncing your name correctly. If I understand you correctly, the cost will be the annual fee per year plus the course fee for all courses, but the compulsory course and the 3 additional assignments which are covered by the annual fee. Correct. Yes, I think that sounds right to me. Birgit, I don't know if Christina or Maria want to.
Yeah, that sounds correct as well. Yeah.
Yeah, good. And then we have Hamed Samadi. Upon completion of the Cert HE, are there circumstances where students have gone on to study for a full degree at Oxford or Cambridge, perhaps? Well, we certainly have had students that have gone on to study for a full degree. I don't know whether any have ended up at Oxford or Cambridge. Maybe Peter's got his finger up, which suggests
just to I've got 2 students who went on to do a degree in Oxford. Yeah.
Oh, great. Yeah. Great. Thank you, Peter.
I've had students go on to postgraduate programs, but they've had degrees previously and then been using the program really to convert to history. So that's another way in which people use the Cert HE.
Yeah, good. Yeah, thanks, Rosemary. There's a question here from Birgit. Will there be a later opportunity for introduction to English literature? Do you mean, can you do that after? I'm not quite sure I understand that question, actually. Does that mean, can you do it in a later year, not year 1 or... Rosemary, do you understand that? Sorry, not Rosemary. We don't have the...
Yeah, I can have a go.
Have a go, Rosemary. I don't know why I decided to pick on you. But yeah,
well, I think that the prospective applicant means that do you have to do it in the first year, which you do have to, is the answer.
Oh,
if it's your core course for your
right, I'm being a bit dense. Yeah.
I think that's right.
Okay, yeah, good. Yeah. Is it possible to schedule a campus tour and schedule a meeting with admissions, you or Jeremy Hughes, to gain more details and insight on the programs available? Well, yeah, I mean, if you get in touch with me and I'm available, I may well be able to have a chat with you in person if you're around. It depends, when it is, but yeah, I'd be happy to do that. So again, just get in touch with me. Maybe get in touch with me directly rather than go through admin, because they've got enough on their plates. So if you were to contact me, you would do that through the email address Stephen with a PH, stephen.law@content.ox.ac.uk. And yeah, maybe we could work out a meeting. Okay, so I'm picking questions at random a little bit here now. So for someone without a prior degree in philosophy, would completing this certificate provide substantive evidence of philosophical ability for a future BPhil application? It would provide evidence for a future BPhil application. I mean, the BPhil is a notoriously tough thing to get on. And typically people that apply to do the BPhil would have a degree in philosophy. But nevertheless, if you were perhaps already had a degree in some other subject that was philosophy related, and then you completed the certificate in philosophy, you might be considered for the BPhil. But I can't possibly say more than that because I'm not tutor for admissions for the BPhil. But yeah, it would be evidence of ability. Maria Ramirez asked, as an online student, could you go a bit more in depth about the main subject tutor-student relationship? How often you meet? Can it be occasionally in person? I live in London. Well, we certainly do have subject area assessors who have met with students in person when that is possible, but some of them don't even live in the UK. So obviously, if you're in the UK, you're not really going to be able to meet them in person. But yeah, sometimes we do. If you attend the summer school, for example, you will certainly be meeting with me, or you will have the opportunity to meet with me in person. And if your subject area specialist is around, they may come to one of the Cert HE dinners, which we run. So you'll be able to socialise with other students during the Cert HE, and you'll quite possibly be able to meet one or more of the assessors, possibly your subject area assessor. It's a very relaxed and fluid relationship. Okay, the subject area specialists makes themselves available to you as and when you need them. We encourage you to make contact early. They are there to provide you with support and help. If you find yourself getting into any kind of difficulty, you can contact me and you can contact your subject area specialist, and we'll do our best to sort you out. You're not restricted to just that narrow window of when you're writing your assignment. That is not, the role of the assessors is to look after you throughout the entire program. I think that's fair enough, isn't it? Any assessor want to add more to that? Getting a thumbs up from Peter? Yeah. How many hours a week do you consider a part-time for study, please? Well, we think that over 10 weeks, you'll be doing 100 hours, 10 hours per week per course is roughly what we think you should be doing. Now, that's very ballpark because some courses are actually a bit more demanding in terms of time. I mean, if you have to do a lot of reading, for example, a lot of literature needs to be covered, you might end up spending more time than that. Other courses may be a bit less than that, but roughly that per 10 CATS points course. And then in addition, there are the additional assignments that you need to find time to do. So a reasonable amount of time that you need to be able to find. I have apologized. So Sophia Rashnikova, I apologize if this has already been mentioned, but I was wondering whether after completing this course, I would be able to pursue my undergraduate degree at Oxford. And whether I would, we kind of already answered this question. Yeah, I mean, you can apply to do a degree. And we have had, as Peter confirmed, we have had people even study for an undergraduate degree at philosophy, in philosophy at Oxford, or a degree including philosophy at Oxford, because there is no degree in straight philosophy at Oxford, weirdly. But you can't really trade in your Cert HE, as it were, for year one of an undergraduate degree at Oxford. Some other institutions might let you do that. That is entirely up to them, and you'd need to discuss it with them. Aslan asks, during the Cert HE studies, can we use Oxford University facilities for studying, like the libraries? Yes, you can. You can use all of the main library facilities. You have full access to all of the university, facilities. Not college specific. You can't kind of wander into a college and use that specific college's library. You wouldn't have access to that, or at least not necessarily. But all of the general library facilities you can use. After graduation, can we still use the facilities? If yes, for how long? I think your card is still valid for a bit after you've graduated, but I can't remember how long during which you can still use the facilities. Yeah, it's not like we completely cancel it at the moment you've completed. When you indicate that the third essay is 100% of courses, is it due by the completion of the last course, or is there further time? No, there's further time. Yeah, it's when you hit the 120 CATS points, then a deadline is set, but the deadline is not the completion date of the last course. It's a separate assignment that's a bit later on, allowing you time to complete. And then we have some other questions. In terms of political economy specialism, how can this be useful in practice? If only we had a political economist here to tell you the answer to that question, which we don't. But I think it's in terms of, having real world application, I think political economy is one of the most obvious candidates there. We've had a lot of students who are already working in the area and find that it's a particularly useful thing to do, and they tailor their studies accordingly depending on what it is that they then want to go on to do afterwards. So you can work with your assessor in thinking about exactly what you're going to do your assignments on and so on, and that can be tailored so that it's of use to you, practical use to you, once you've completed. Oh, good question from David Mansbridge. If I complete an Oxford Lifelong Learning short course between now and September, can I carry the CATS points forwards? And the answer is yes. If you have done one of our courses for CATS points, got to be one of ours for CATS points, then you can import those CATS points into the Cert HE if you're then accepted onto the Cert HE. Up to 30 CATS points taken within the preceding 4 years before registration. So if you took a course last year for CATS points and you're then accepted for the end of 26, you can import those CATS points. Any course you take now, you can import the CATS points. So if you want to kind of make life a little bit easier for yourself while you're actually enrolled, you can start studying now, acquire some CATS points, and then import those into the course. The one thing you can't do is meet the face-to-face requirement in advance of actually being registered on the programme. You must attend a course in person while registered. If you were to attend a summer school next summer, this coming summer, sorry, that's not going to count as far as face-to-face is concerned. You then have to do another summer school while you were enrolled. Well, we're nearly out of time now. I'm going to look at one more question. How long do you get normally to complete the additional assignments? Well, let me hand over to an assessor to talk a little bit about that, about the time. Peter, you look like you're thinking about this. Do you want to talk about that?
I was answering another question.
Oh, okay.
How do you
I'm sorry. Yeah.
Well, that depends. That depends a lot on how quick you are and how swiftly you can proceed with writing and so on. So that really depends. But my advice is to students is to start very early. So they should start at the start of the term, which gets you to the milestone that they need to submit. So that gives them a term plus about 5 or 6 weeks after the term. And I think that's usually a good advice. But in any time, they can start thinking about their assignment very early on, even a year ahead, and start writing and so on. That's not an issue. They have to submit on time, but they could take a lot of time to work on their assignments.
Yeah. So yeah, no, as you say, you can start thinking about it very early on. In fact, I would recommend that you do start thinking about it very early on. Yeah, good. Okay, well, look, we're out of time, unfortunately. Thank you very much for joining us. Hopefully we've answered most of your questions, either typing the answers in or I've read them out and we've provided a verbal reply. If you have other questions, take a look at the website first, because I think you'll find that very often you can find the answer to a question just by looking closely at the information that's available online. But if there is some burning question that remains after that, you can then get in contact with us and we'll try and get back to you. Thank you very much for joining us. I'm very much looking forward to meeting at least some of you in future. So if you apply and you meet sort of the basic minimal requirements, there will be an interview in which it's a very friendly and informal interview with myself and the relevant subject area specialist. So I look forward to meeting some of you maybe online for an interview a bit further on down the line. So thank you again for joining us and good luck. Goodbye.